Eric? Eric, you can start.
Okay, good morning. My name is Eric Thrasher. I'm the hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Clinton Otwell is the clerk of today's hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet, so if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. Today's public hearing is being held to consider two items. Order number 205515, to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal removal of one significant tree on private property at 885 Kansas Street. The fine levied for the illegal removal is $2,193. And order number 205413, to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 3124 Fulton Street. The fine levied for the illegal pruning is $2,193. My job as a hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the interim director. The interim director will make the final determinations. When the director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearings will proceed as followed for each of the two cases. First, I will ask Public Works staff to speak and present the case. Then I will allow first the property owner or the appellant or applicant to speak, followed by any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. Finally, followed by the department if the department would like to address any comments. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. Or actually, Clinton Otwell will be calling on you. If you would like to use any visual materials in your presentation, please let us know before you begin speaking. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you are a member of the public or witness who wishes to speak, wait for Clinton to call for public comments, then use the Zoom raise your hand feature if you're on a computer to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you're dialing in on your phone, dial *9 to indicate you are raising your hand. When it is your turn to speak, you will be recognized. If on your phone and you're muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let us know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or to the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I may ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing with order number 205515.
I'm sorry, Eric, 1 second. This is Clinton,
Sure.
the hearing clerk. We do have a new section that has been added, which is to open up for public comment, which is item number 2. And this would be any sort of members of the public can address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. So just kind of giving, before we get started, is there anything sort of that the public wanted to contribute that's not on the agenda that we can address? And that's a new addition to the hearing order that's on all hearings. So we'll give anyone use the raise your hand feature. I am assisted today by Mylene Sanchez, who is a hearing clerk trainee, and so she is actually doing the running, but I will be assisting as well. So thank you, everyone. Again, use the raise your hand feature if you want to speak, and we'll call on you to unmute your phone and speak.
Okay, is a member of the department or the Bureau of Urban Forestry ready to speak? about 885 Kansas Street.
Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Good morning. My name's Sarah Stacy. I'm an urban forestry inspector with the Department of Urban Forestry. Thank you for your time this morning and joining us. I do have a short preamble or introduction before we start the orders. I'm going to share my screen. Everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So this hearing today is an administrative hearing to review fines that the department has issued. I would like to review some of our part of our ordinance, the urban forestry ordinance, which is part of Article 16. This is Section 808, the protection of trees and landscape material. This prohibits the injury or destruction of trees. And this establishes the urban forestry department's policy for us to issue fines to property owners. Section 806, planting and removal of street trees. This is part of Article 16, and this outlines the policy that requires a removal permit to remove any street tree, and also a removal permit is necessary to remove any significant tree, which we have one case today for, and also for any landmark trees. A lot of text here, but we also have a section in Article 16 that outlines the requirements for the protection of trees. This section was bolstered in 2015 and requires contractors to protect trees. The onus is on them to protect trees during construction, and we can fine any contractors or property owners that fail to protect trees. Just some general definitions. What does it mean to injure or cause injury to a tree? This can be cutting, carving, painting, removing a young tree and transplanting it, knocking it over with a vehicle, include attaching rope, wires, nails, advertising posters, putting paint and other noxious elements on the tree. And also pruning in itself can cause an injury to the tree. And I'll describe and talk about that more. Here are just a few photos of some injuries to trees. These were malicious acts. You can see here on the left, someone has drilled holes in the tree, and this caused the tree to die. They poured some noxious materials into those holes. There's a lot of vandalism in the city. It's a tough life for trees in the city. You can see here on the right, a tree has been burned and set on fire. Best management practices, these are adopted from industry standards. So not just rules the city has adopted, but these are industry-wide standards accepted internationally. And generally something property owners should kind of know, and it's their due diligence to understand the city policies and regulations, that you should never remove more than 25% of a tree's canopy during a single growing season. And the main reason for that is that the tree relies on those leaves as its food source, basically so that the tree can photosynthesize and produce energy to sustain itself and grow. So it's important that you never prune too much of the tree. And the general guideline is never to remove more than 25% of the crown. There's kind of a general policy as far as the kind of pruning cuts you make, and to never cut back to a branch that is less than 1/3 or 1/2 the size of that branch you're pruning. So some illegal practices, and these are common reasons why we issue fines. Do not top trees. We see it all across the city. Trees given a very poor or bad haircut. Here you can see in the picture, the trees have been completely denuded. 100% of the foliage has been removed. And we call these topping cuts. They're kind of indiscriminate cuts, really with no thought, no expertise, just giving kind of a flat top haircut to the trees without any thought to the proper guidelines in the health of the tree. And why this is harmful, oftentimes we have property owners come back and say, well, my tree is doing fine. It's got all this new growth. Well, the topping cuts are harmful because they can cause your tree to put out new growth. Sure, we hear that, but that new growth is rapid growth, new shoots, a lot of new shoots, and oftentimes they're weakly attached. And without the proper restructuring, these new shoots can again, be weakly attached, and they can be susceptible to future failures. It also, by removing a lot of the leaves, you're making the tree weak, and it's losing some of its energy that it relies on to sustain itself. Here we can see all those shoots growing out from those topping cuts. And again, this is a bad practice because those shoots, without proper restructuring, can be weakly attached, and in the future they can fail. And the city, we want to be maintaining and producing trees with good structure and not a lot of hazards. Here you can see again a tree that's been topped, and without the proper restructuring, you have kind of a wild tangle mess of branches. They're all intertwined, weakly attached. And this is just an example of poor structure, and these branches can be susceptible to failure. You can also see here poorly cut branches where disease and pests can enter the tree, and the tree becomes more susceptible to decline into those pests hurting the tree. Here's just a few more examples of poor pruning cuts. You can see here decay entering the tree, poor pruning cuts where the bark has ripped or a branch has fallen. And what's really unique and special about trees is their physiological ability to seal those wounds. But when you make improper cuts, the tree loses the ability to seal those wounds properly. And that's when you have decay and pests enter the tree, and we want to avoid that. In front of City Hall, we have several London plane trees. As an example, they've been pollarded. We want to tell the public not to confuse this pruning practice, pollarding, with topping. It's not the same thing. We do have pollarded trees, as an example, on California Street. And this is a very high intensive maintenance practice. It's more a cultural aesthetic practice than anything. And that practice removes the shoots or like the new growth every 2 to 3 years and leaves these kind of like knuckled branches. Whereas you see the topping is kind of just an indiscriminate cuts across the branches, not back to a proper branch size or a bud or node. And all the canopy is removed. So it's not the same practice. And again, we generally discourage pollarding. It's highly maintenance intensive and requires a lot of resources. And it is also only for certain tree species. Here are some slides, some images to show trees underneath utility lines. We often have property owners improperly pruning trees because they are worried about the hazard of the tree branches touching these utility lines. In the city, we often have some lower communication, low voltage lines that the trees can safely touch, and it's the high voltage lines that are 45 feet or higher that PG&E maintains clearance from. Unless there's a heavy branch or strain on these lower wires, the tree can grow safely around and over those wires. Trees do not have to be topped or pruned to sit below these low voltage utility lines. Street Tree SF. This is the initiative that the citizens of San Francisco approved in 2016. It began in July 2017, became effective, and it's a citywide street tree maintenance program managed by Public Works. And we provide routine pruning of street trees, and we also repair sidewalk related damage from tree roots. In preparation for this program, we did a tree census that was completed, and we found that we have approximately 125,000 trees that we're caring for. And we use this tree census data to prioritize where we're currently pruning. So you may have seen some of our tree crews out and contractors pruning street trees. You can see here how that was prioritized. So we're working in all different areas of the city to provide this routine maintenance. We are focused on the worst first, and we do ask for the public's patience as we get to everyone's street tree and provide that maintenance. And after we've gotten through the first cycle, we hope that the maintenance schedule would happen every 3 to 5 years. Since the start of Street Tree SF, about 24% of the total tree maintenance needs have been addressed, and we've pruned more than 30,000 street trees, and we've removed about 3,000 hazardous trees or dead trees. We do put out door knockers in advance of our routine maintenance. And when property owners receive these, they're in different languages. They can reach out to us if they don't want their street tree pruned, and they can opt out. And we certainly can answer any questions about our maintenance program. As a part of this administrative hearing, the attendees can attend a street tree care class. And when you attend this, you can get a reduction in your fine. The class teaches about the benefits of trees and the benefits of proper tree pruning. It lasts approximately 2 hours. And the fee is $197, and that goes to our Adopted Tree Fund, which helps plant and replace street trees in the city.
Stacy,
Yes.
can you hear me? Before you proceed, will you mention if either of these orders, if the property owners qualify for the street tree class when you discuss the orders? I think
Yes,
in some cases, I believe there are some restrictions on whether or not you can take the street tree class. I might be wrong about that, but if there are, can you just point that out as you discuss the order?
I will try. I'm not familiar with the rubric.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just assume that in both cases, and it's an option.
I think that's fair.
All right.
So I believe we're beginning with order number 205515 for 885 Kansas Street. This is to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for the illegal removal of one significant tree on private property at 885 Kansas Street. The department issued the fine for $2,193. This is the equivalent value of an in lieu fee and basically represents the value of replacing a tree and watering it for 3 years. In the top left picture is the tree that was removed without a permit. This is a Cordyline australis, a Dracaena palm. This is a significant tree, and the department requires a removal permit for the removal of any street tree or any significant tree or landmark tree. This is a significant tree based on its height, 20 feet. A significant tree is any tree within 10 feet of the public right-of-way and has to meet one of 3 size criteria: 20 feet in height, or 15 feet in spread, or have a 12-inch diameter trunk measured about 4.5 feet off the ground. So we issued this fine because it was removed, because the tree was removed without a permit. And you can see here in the photo on the bottom right, parts of the tree out on a tarp. So actually the work in progress was caught with some photos, and the department was alerted about the illegal removal. This is just a map to show the public right-of-way. This is 885 Kansas, and the public right-of-way is 15 feet. So that tree was behind 15 feet, and it was measured at approximately, I believe, 16 feet from the face of the curb. This is the trunk of the tree shown here against the property where the tree was cut. Again, just another picture of the trunk that remained after the tree was removed. And this picture just shows the work in progress, showing the Dracaena palm being removed. In this case, the department, in these cases, to be most consistent, what we generally do is have the property owner submit a retroactive removal permit application, and then through the fine process, see what kind of reduction they can get. In some cases, we want to see if the tree can be replaced. In this situation, most likely a tree just does not make sense here because of the existing landscaping and the spacing requirement from the property. It just would be difficult to find a suitable species to put right up against the property, and there's already an existing street tree. One thing the department considered was possibly if the property owner could put in sidewalk landscaping, but we would require them to submit a retroactive removal application. So to be consistent with other cases, we issued the fine for the removal of one significant tree without a permit. Thank you.
It appears we don't have anyone here to speak, correct?
It's the appellant has their, it looks like Mr. Pardon me for if I mispronounce your name. It's first name Garrett. You can go, Garrett, you can unmute.
Hi there. Thanks, Clinton.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for allowing me to present a few additional points of information here. First of all, yes, the tree was removed. I am the property owner. Originally, my understanding is that the tree was illegally planted. The previous owners did not have any indication that they obtained a permit for the planting of that large growing tree, and it was planted right up against the house. Over the years that the tree rapidly grew, it created concerns to me about property damage, both on the exterior of the house and more importantly on the foundation of the house. You have seen the pictures where the large and imposing root system is adding pressure to the foundation of the house and creating damage there as well as on the exterior of the house. I solicited bids from tree removal services and went with a licensed arborist called Arborist Now. The group came out to assess and confirm that indeed the tree was creating damage to the foundation and recommended removal. They proceeded to remove the tree as was photographed. And a few weeks later, I received a notice in the mail saying that the tree was illegally removed. That was a surprise to me. I was under the understanding that a licensed arborist would have pursued any required applications or permits for this. So very surprised to receive that notice. I'm a nature lover myself. This was not an easy decision. I'm a life Boy Scout and rescue all sorts of animals. So this was a hard decision for us to make because we did like that tree a lot. Importantly, upon receiving the fine, I sent in a retroactive application fee for the amount that a regular application for permit would have cost. I believe that check was cashed. I have not received it back. And I'm asking for reconsideration of that fine, given the fact that the tree was creating damage to my property and needed to be removed. I'll pause there to see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Garrett. And that was your time limit. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just have a question for the department. Can you discuss the street tree program and how that might be an option for Garrett? I'm sorry, I know I'm going to destroy this name,
No
your
problem.
last name.
It's fine. Vigantis.
Vigantis? Vigantis. Okay, for Mr. Vigantis, can you talk about that a little bit? What that option would look like for Mr. Vigantis, and also the option of, since he's already applied for retroactively a permit, or he sent in a fee, do you have the paperwork for this retroactive permit? And can you discuss what he might do as far as a landscaping or some other plan, and how that would impact the fee, the fine? Stacy, can you hear me? You're muted. Stacy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm not
Okay.
quite ready.
Oh, I see. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you heard my. Did that make sense?
I don't really understand
Okay.
how street tree SF could help him. This is a significant tree.
Okay.
So our maintenance program would not apply here.
Okay.
There's not really a connection there. We would be providing routine maintenance for the street tree in front of the property.
Okay, so that doesn't qualify because it wasn't an illegal pruning, and that class is only available for people who illegally prune, correct?
As far as the class, I think he could attend the class. I don't see any reason why he couldn't attend the class.
Okay, would that affect a reduction in the fine that he is being charged if he attends this?
Yeah, I think there's some rubric for a reduction.
Okay. Mr. Vigantis, would you be interested in hearing
course.
more about that option?
Of course, thank you for considering that. I very much, thought I was doing everything correctly, and again, I'm surprised to be in this position. So yes, I will happily do what it takes to reduce the fine and understand the implications going forward of pruning and such.
Okay. Were you aware that this tree is considered a city tree based on the proposition that was approved in 2018?
Totally unaware. And again, I thought by hiring a licensed arborist rather than a fly-by-night arborist to remove the tree, I was following in the proper steps to ensure, I would be compliant with all regulations of the city. This is a licensed arborist by the city of San Francisco. Arborist said that he did not feel that the tree was 20 feet tall. That was the reason given why permit was not pursued. So is what it is. I'm standing in front of you telling you that I did everything that I thought was correct. And so, but the reality is that the tree was creating damage to the property. And I believe there's a definition there where that allows for the removal of the tree in the regulations.
Okay. So I'm not fully versed on the rubric as Ms. Stacy described it, but I think we can get you some more information about that class. I know it's a 2-hour class. It's typically on a Saturday, and they have some sort of a schedule for if you attend the class, and they'll reduce the fine by a certain amount. And then if there's an option to put some landscaping, it looks like you already kind of have some landscaping in there.
Yep. There's
Okay.
there's additional trees that are not going to grow and are not, planted. So we're not planted so close to the foundation to create damage the way this one was. So,
Right.
and again, that was the previous owner, who didn't have a permit initially to plant the tree. So,
Okay, if there are any other kind of landscaping options that the Bureau would be interested in discussing with you, would you be open to that?
of course, absolutely. And, the reality is the trunk of the tree is still there. And so we would have to, again, work around that. So,
Okay,
yeah, of course, I want the property to look great too. So,
okay. And does the Bureau have any response or any additional information to provide?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that the property owner, Garrett, he did hire a licensed certified arborist. It was an arborist that we work with, and it was a mistake, an unfortunate mistake.
I see.
But I believe the property owner was doing the right thing.
Okay.
thank you.
Does anybody else from the public, does anyone wish to comment? All right.
Oh, no hands up, no comments. So we'll
Okay.
move to the next hearing, or next order.
Yes, let's proceed with order number 205413.
This is order number 205-51. This is order number 205-514 to consider an appeal from the property owner for the fine issued for the illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 3124 Fulton Street. And the department issued the fine for $2,193. Again, that's the in lieu fee value. This is the tree shown in front of 3124 Fulton. It's a Tristania lorena. A swamp myrtle is the common name. Here you can see the tree is in what we consider good to fair condition. And when the inspector was on site here, they found 2 large improper pruning cuts. And I've shown this here with these little marks of what branches were pruned. Now, in 2015, we had issued a warning letter to this property owner, and we issued the fine mostly because we had issued a warning letter previously, and a second occurrence happened where the tree was pruned improperly. This is the tree. The pruning cuts, it's not that severe what happened here. But the pruning cuts were made improperly. And again, it was because of the previous warning letter that we issued the fine. These are the improper pruning cuts. Here you can see torn and ripped bark. And again, just torn and ripped bark. So the cuts are not made by a professional, someone who knows the proper ways to prune a tree. And this can cause further injury to the tree. This is a tree shown in January 2015 when it was pruned improperly in the past, and we had sent a warning letter. Looking into this, what we did find out was that possibly the warning letter was not received because it was linked in our database to the wrong block lot. So that original warning letter may have never been received, but we had still issued the fine in this case. I would just comment that the pruning is not as severe as most cases that we issue a fine for, but this is kind of consistent with why we issue fines for improper illegal pruning. And that's all I have.
Is the appellant present? Please use the raise hand feature. I have a Wilmer Chua.
Okay, Wilmer, go ahead and unmute. You're ready to go. Uh-oh. I think Wilmer,
Yes,
oh,
here
there he is.
on behalf of the property owners, my father, I'm not disputing that it happened. He is an immigrant and does not speak English. And again, I'm not disputing it happened. I'm just hoping there's some leeway on the fine. And I've talked to him. He's very remorseful. And if there's anything we can do to make it right, we will. And that's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, I believe that, Mr. Chu, were you aware of a letter that was sent out in 2015 about a previous illegal pruning?
I was not.
Okay. So as we heard in the presentation, the property had a incorrect block lot number associated in the database. So it's possible that that letter was mailed to an address that was not the correct address. Therefore, you or your father may not have received that letter. Again, there is a tree class, a tree care class that's available as an option. Would you or your father be interested in hearing more information about attending this class and potentially getting a reduction on your fine?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if we can even, I don't know, if we replace the tree, would that help? Like, anything we can do.
Okay. I'm not sure if the department can speak to what kind of a life this tree has in front of it, and if that would even be an option. Do you know, Sarah, if this tree would require replacing because of those cuts, or would you let the tree kind of live out its life and replace as required down the road?
In this case, we wouldn't require a replacement. We want to sustain the tree.
Okay. So it doesn't seem that would be the course of action, but I believe we can get you some information about a tree care class. And maybe, is your father elderly? You said he doesn't speak English very well. So it may be possible even that someone else could attend in his place. Would that be something that also you might be interested in?
Yeah, I would attend on his behalf. He is retired, but again,
Okay.
he doesn't really speak English.
Right. Okay. So I will ask that the Bureau reach out to you with that information. And you can pursue that option if you like. I guess that will close that case unless there's anyone else from the public or from the department that would like to comment.
I would just say that generally, if property owners have tree concerns, we encourage them to call 311 or contact our department if they have a concern. We generally want property owners to be hands-off. We don't require a permit to prune a tree. However, we want to make sure that they're hiring a qualified professional that knows the best practices and standards for pruning. So we want to have a conversation about that. And it is the responsibility of the property owner to know the city's regulations and policies. So again, we want to tell property owners hands off, let the city and its contractors do the work. If you have a concern, please report it to us, and you can do that by calling 311, or you can email our department or call our department.
Thank
Okay. Can you all hear me? Am I still on?
Yes, you're ready to close out the hearing.
Great.
Unless we have any comment from the public.
Okay, I guess that's it then. I will close this hearing. Thank you for your time. And again, make sure you provide your email address for follow-up information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Stacy, can you and Clinton hang on the line for a minute?
Let's go ahead and close out the hearing first.
The hearing is closed.
Great.